So, hi everyone, my name is Pooja Mistry. I am a senior developer advocate here at Postman. And today I'm going to be talking to you all about one of my favorite features in Postman, which is like really underrated, but one of the most powerful features that I think everyone should really know about, and it is called mock servers. So before we kick things off, I wanted to start off by featuring some of my engineering friends that are running into a little bit of trouble. So let's take a look at what kind of trouble they're running into. All right, so there we go. All right, so these are some of my friends. Can we get the audio? Oh, maybe we can't.
Is API ready yet? Not quite. I'm still figuring out some auth stuff. It might take me a day or two. I need to hook it up to the UI right now, or I'm gonna fall behind on this week's sprint. You know you don't have to wait, right? You can fake it with a Postman mock server. Let me show you how. First, go to your workspace in Postman and enable mock servers if you haven't already. Then create a new mock server, which you can do from an existing collection or even start fresh. Once it's created, Postman gives you a mock URL, and this URL works like any real API endpoint, except it's running on fake responses that you define. Now, for the magic, in your collection, define the request and the response schema. Let's say our fruits endpoint return a list of fruits. Add a success example like this. And for error handling, throw in a 400 example. You can even get fancy and add dynamic responses using Postman's dynamic variables. Wait, so you're telling me I can fake the backend and just keep building? Exactly. You build the UI, hit the mock server, and then when the real API is ready, you just switch the URL. See? No blockers. All right, this is a game changer. I'm gonna go mock everything.
All right, well, I hope this video kind of gave you a little bit of a chuckle because it's kind of what I think some engineers deal with when it comes to working with different types of connections, integrations, and things like that. So the idea of mock servers is a game changer in that way, but let's talk about why we even want to prototype. So think about this. When you're connecting the back end to the front end, you have a lot of logic that sort of can get lost. And you can leave a lot of teams waiting or worse, making a lot of assumptions. So what happens next? You have some integration issues, there's a lot of rework, and worst thing that could happen is that you lose and waste a lot of time. So this is a common problem in API development. I think we've all been here where we kind of don't talk to each other and eventually we lead to some sort of disconnect, but this is where mock servers comes in. So mock servers literally means that you are faking it until you make it, literally. So what you're doing here is you're simulating an API's endpoint and its response before the backend is actually built out. So with Postman, you can create full-blown mocks from simple collections, and you are starting to hit those API endpoints instantly. So basically, this means that your front end can start working right now, your product managers can demo a workflow, and your partners can start integrating APIs without authentication. So a couple of use cases when it comes to working with mock servers. So there's parallel development. There's where the front-end teams and your back-end teams and your testers, you guys can start building in parallel. You can start onboarding where there's no authentication. So essentially, mock servers act like your onboarding sandbox. You can start working with third-party APIs. Let's say you have an API that you can't get access to. Why not mock the API? Or you can start prototyping with your stakeholders accordingly. And so the heart of mock servers is examples. So examples are really flexible. They bring your mock API to life. They show your API endpoints in action, and so what these examples consist of are your requests as well as your responses. So your requests can be like your headers, query parameters, et cetera, and your responses are what your response returns, as well as your response codes and things like that. So essentially, if you have multiple examples for your API request, this is very useful because you can create examples for 200 OKs, 400s, et cetera, and this allows your developers to get started pretty quickly. You're basically building the API, what it should look like, how it should be, without even coding any backend. It's pretty cool. So what this allows you to do is convert like legacy PDFs, docs, into something that looks like this, into a whole collection. So a collection has all of these requests, its examples. These are live working API endpoints that your developers can get started with right away. And so all you need to do is spin up a mock server, create the endpoint, create your examples, and there you go. You have an API that is working, and you can now start integrating with your teams accordingly without even writing a single line of code. So my favorite feature of mock servers is being able to fake the data. I love faking things, okay? So if you haven't worked with the Faker library yet in Postman, it's one of the most useful and underrated libraries out there. So within Postman, we have the Faker.js library. This allows you to fake everything and create dynamic workflows. So no more static John Doe or 123 Street. You can use the Faker library to fake things like random names, integers, emails, even UUIDs. So this is a game changer when you're thinking about prototyping APIs that need to use realistic product data, or you're building out front ends and you need some sort of dynamic response. You need to like type in like a customer name into a query, or if you want to populate a database. That's a really common use case for why you want to build a mock server that is running with fake data. So essentially what this happens is it makes your API feel real. So a lot of teams, it allows a lot of teams to build APIs with confidence and create records that don't even exist, but you have something that is automatically working. So a couple of examples of what that looks like, especially in your responses. You have all of these fake, this is using the Faker library within Postman, and it's working on a mock server. And as you can see, every time you hit that API endpoint, you're able to generate interesting and dynamic fake data that you can use to build out your integrations. So let's see what a mock server looks like in action. So I showed you the thing that my friends were making, but let me show you what that looks like in real life. So if we go to my Postman collection, to get started with mock servers, we have this thing called mock servers on the side. So if you want to get started, what you can do is you can basically create a mock server. Let's call this one Fruit API 2. And you can decide to create it with an existing collection or a new collection. So in this case, all you have to do is give your API an endpoint. So in this case, I will just do Fruit API 2, so that's like the API endpoint. You can set the response code. You can give it the environment that you're interested in. And you can save these as new environment variables. So here we go. We have a live URL. This is a URL that we can now use to basically fake our data. So let's take a look. I actually have a mock server that's working already. I've actually used it to hit a bunch of different endpoints. This is an API that I just made up on the fly. And if I was interested in connecting that to any system, you can actually start generating some of that data pretty quickly. So now that I have this API created, and it basically gives me this URL, I can go ahead and put that into one of my collections. So in my case, I have this Mocking with Fruits collection here. And so, for example, this is my API. It's running on my mock server URL. It has that endpoint that I just set up. And now I have a couple of examples. So this is my success example. So now you can see that if I wanted to prototype this live, like for example, I wanted to have this, add to this data, prototype it live. Now I can go ahead and try it, and you can see that I can return a 200 response. So this is a fake API that I just created, and I'm just creating what a successful example looks like. So if I wanted to create a failure case in this case, I have a fail example where my example will return a 400 bad request. So as you can see, you can add your status code. You can dynamically change your request output. And so when you try this API, you can get the data that you're interested in. So the idea here is that you're building out your API. You're building out the various different examples, what your response output looks like, what your request output looks like. And you are now, I haven't written a single line of code. And basically, if I were to give this to my to one of my colleagues, I can then go ahead and generate the code from the side. And you can see that my mock URL is right here that they're able to now hit with the API that I've designed. So this is really interesting. I mean, we had a flows workshop yesterday. We were creating a lot of HTTP request blocks. You could actually use all of those HTTP request blocks with mock APIs. So imagine creating an end-to-end workflow with a bunch of APIs that you've just prototyped. So going back to one of my favorite features is the dynamic feature. So this is using a bunch of random data. So as you can see, I'm using the Faker library to get some random names, random emails, random street addresses. So when I hit this API, every single time I hit this API, I'm getting some random data. So think about populating a database that is full of random data. You might need that to hit that maybe some sort of server or fill out a front end. So I wanted to take this time, I know I had 15 minutes and 3 minutes left, to just talk about why mock servers are super powerful. Essentially, mock servers allow you to sort of, let's go back to this. All right. So, oops. So mock servers, they're really easy to get started. The way that you get started is by creating a collection, creating your sample request and response using examples, clicking on mock a collection, and then you have a real-looking live API that you can use in multiple different applications. So you can even version these, secure these, and customize these mocks. And so as your API evolves, your mock can too. So imagine a world where instead of writing the code for an API first, you mock it. And then once you're happy with the mock, you can give that to your engineers, your testers, to test the API, and then write the code and ensure that you have the quality API that you're looking for. So at the end of the day, mock servers aren't just for testing, they're for collaboration. They're the connective tissue behind ideas, implementation. They unblock people out of everything. They prevent chaos. And they let you prototype and deliver better APIs faster. So if you're interested in learning more about mock servers, more about the features that we have on Postman, I have some resources for you. Some of our Learning Center, it's the best place to learn about all things Postman. We have a great Postman YouTube channel. I hope you found my little video kind of funny. But we have a lot more really great examples of how to work with Postman features, MCP servers, AI agents, flows. So definitely check out our YouTube channel. We have hands-on tutorials to help you get started. And for those of you who weren't able to go to the workshop, you can go check out the Postman Academy for a lot more hands-on things. So if you're using mock servers and if you're not using mock servers in your workflow yet, this is your sign. They're simple, they're powerful, and they might be the thing that you need in your development lifecycle. So thank you again. My name is Pooja, and thank you for joining me on this talk talking about mock servers. So let's go ahead and fake it till we make it together. Thank you.